Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I want to talk to you guys about pistol accuracy at distance, okay? I have 3 pistols here that I was testing at 50 yards. Ruger Mark IV, the P80, Glock 17. I did a similar test about a year ago with the Ruger Mark III. It had a Bushnell red dot on it, and I was shooting that at 110 yards. And what I found last year is that at 110 yards with the Mark III, which shoots 22s, I was able to get about 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 hits on an 8x10 paper. Okay? So on a paper this size with a Ruger Mark III, 110 yards, I was getting either 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, pretty consistently. Okay. Now I tried it with the Glock 17. And I could not get any hits on the paper at 110 yards when I tested it. And you know, it was a little unfair because I did have a red dot on the Mark III. I did not have a Glock or a Glock-like gun that would take a red dot. So I was kind of comparing a red dot to iron sights. So I thought that was kind of unfair. So this year, I've got a P80 here, which is basically a Glock clone that has a red dot on it. In fact, these two guns have the same exact red dot on it. They got the Holosun 507C. So I thought that would be a really fair comparison. And what I did is, instead of shooting it out at 110 yards, I brought it in to 50 yards. The reason is I knew I would get good accuracy with the Mark IV, because that's a Mark IV now that I'm using this time around. The Mark III actually completely shut out that barrel, and Ruger replaced it for me. They did charge me some extra money to replace it, but the point is that the Mark III is gone. I got a Mark IV now. So I was shooting this at 50 yards because I knew that at 50 yards, I mean, the bullets wouldn't be like on top of each other. There would be a little bit of a spread. And at the same time, I had a good feeling that with these 9mm pistols, right, with these Glocks, I would be able to get some hits even with the iron sights. Okay, so this way I could, I had something to compare. Okay, so I started off with the Mark IV. Okay, so this is the Mark IV, and it's got the Holosun 507C on it. Normally I shoot this with the circle only. I switched it to dot only to give me a finer point, so I can put it on top of this the bullseye that I set up here. And what I'm getting is an average of about 5 inches at 50 yards. Okay, now let me explain to you guys how I was shooting this. Okay. Basically from a bench position, okay, I was resting the barrel of the gun on the bag, right, and getting down. I actually had this raised up a little bit higher, but resting the barrel of the gun on the bag, trying to stabilize it as much as possible. Now, I did this yesterday and the day before that. I had a lot less wind. I was hoping to do a little bit more testing today, but the wind is just too much, and with the pistol ammo at 50 yards, it would make a difference, a significant difference with the type of wind I've got today, which is about 15 miles an hour, and it's a crosswind. Yesterday's wind was less, and it was heading straight out, so it impacted the bullets less. So the point is, I couldn't really test this today, but it's a good day to make this video. So at 50 yards with this Mark IV using the red dot, I am getting about 5 inches. And over 2 days, I probably shot about 100 rounds. I was doing groupings of, 5-shot groupings. Okay, so I would shoot 5, would do 5 shots, look at it, do another 5 shots. So I did a lot of work with that. I wanted to kind of get a better sense of what this gun would do. And here's a good example. The total grouping over here, right? Between that shot there and that shot there, on this one is about 7 inches, right? But then I have a 4-shot cluster, okay, that is 4 inches. Okay, so I got a 4-shot cluster here. All right, and then here's another good one. So same thing, I see for between the furthest 2 shots, I see a 6-inch grouping, right? But then I got a 4-shot cluster over here of about 2 inches, okay? So, you know, I'm pretty sure if I worked on this longer, if I did it maybe in the summertime on days that I didn't have any wind at all, because I still had some wind when I was shooting this. It was going straight out. You know, I might be able to get this down to 2 inches. Certainly, I think maybe 3 inches. But for now, I'm going to say my average is 5 inches at 50 yards with this Ruger Mark IV. I think out of the 100 or so rounds that I shot, I think all of them, with the exception of maybe 2 or 3, were on the paper. Okay, I think there was only like 2 instances where the shots came off the paper, and it was either a wind condition that picked up, or you know, maybe I just jerked it a little bit too much or whatever it was. But for the most part, I can reliably get 98% consistency on the paper at 50 yards with an average grouping of about 5 inches. Okay, so let me put this down. And what I did then is I went to the Glock 17. This is all stock parts. Cover this paper. Okay, I don't want to lose these papers because, like I said, there's wind today. So this is all stock. I was even using a original Glock magazine. So the results for this, and that's using iron sights, right? I just got iron sights on this gun. Okay, was that I did a 3-shot. I did 3 groupings, 5 shots each. The first grouping was 1 out of 5 on the paper. The second grouping was 0 out of 5 on the paper. The third grouping was 3 out of 5 on the paper. So I can't even say I have a grouping. I can just tell you how many shots were on the paper. The best I got was 3 out of 5. This paper here is the best one I got. I got 1, 2, 3. So you can see they're pretty spread out. So my best grouping was about 8.5 inches. Okay, and that's again not grouping. You know, just the best. You know, as far as just what got on the paper. 3 out of 5 on the paper, and they're pretty spread out. That's actually not a hit there. What actually happened was one of the bullets hit, I guess dropped, hit the ground and bounced up, and went into that. So that's actually, that hole there is actually from it hitting the ground. So it's pretty spread out. With the iron sights, I did have to anchor to the top of the paper, okay? Because you know, with the iron sights, they're pretty close to the barrel. I mean, these guns, you know, with the iron sights, they're not zeroed in for 50 yards. They're probably zeroed in for a much closer distance. You know, the factory sights, they're probably zeroed in for maybe 20 yards. So at the 50 yards, I was getting a drop. It was dropping to near the bottom of the paper. So after a couple of times of testing it, I realized that just in order to get on the paper, I would have to anchor my iron sights to the top of the paper up here, right? All right, so that was with the Glock 17. And then I said, okay, now let's try the P80. Okay, so P80, it's got a red dot on it, same red dot that's on that Ruger Mark IV over there, the House on 507C. It's got the suppressor height sights. And with this, I did do better, okay? I did, again, in 3 groupings, 5 shots each. Okay, I got 1 out of 5, right, on the paper. Then 3 out of 5 on the paper. Okay, that's the one that you see over here, right, where I got 1 hit, 2 hits, 3 hits, right? So they're spread out, you know, almost 10 inches apart, right? And then there's 2 that are completely off the paper. And then the third grouping was 2 out of 5 on the paper, okay? So I definitely improved with the P80, which had the red dot on it. With the red dot, you know, I was able to just put the red dot on the bullseye here, and you know, and fire it without having to hold over, just because of the way, because I was able to zero it in and adjust it in a way that I can't do with the iron sights on the Glock. So a couple of interesting things that came out of this. The 22s, right, out of that Ruger Mark IV are consistently a lot more accurate with the pistol. All right, so let's talk about why that might be the case. Okay, now let me tell you this: with when I was shooting either one of these pistols, right, that have the red dot on it, and I was stabilizing the gun on this bag, right, the way you see here, you know, shooting two-handed, stabilizing it on the gun. When I had my red dot on the bullseye, right, because remember, it's not like a rifle that you can, you know, anchor it into your shoulder, put your face on the gun. So under the best circumstances, right, when I had my red dot on this bullseye, I could see that the red dot was moving a little bit, right? It was really hard for me to stabilize the red dot. The best I could do was basically keep it, you know, like if this is about 2 inches going across, I mean, I could keep it within 3 inches, right? But I could definitely see that the red dot was moving a little bit. It was really hard to keep it stable, and that's with both the Mark IV and with the P80. It was just really difficult for me to get the gun completely stable on that bag. You know, maybe if I, you know, in the summertime, if I have more time to figure out some way to stabilize the gun, I can try and get it even more stable. But the best I could do was just to kind of get that red dot to stay within 3 inches. Okay, so now obviously this isn't a problem with the gun. This is a problem with the shooter stabilizing the gun. But it's you know, it's reality. It's like, you know, I mean, a rifle obviously is an easier tool to use. All right, so you know, the pistol in this type of, you know, in this type of situation is a little bit more difficult. And again, we're trying to figure out what I can do, kind of, you know, setting kind of a benchmark here. You know, maybe the next time I do this, I'll be able to do a little bit better. Or maybe when you do it, you know, you can use this video as a benchmark so you can try and do a little bit better. So that's kind of like the purpose of this video. I'm kind of setting a benchmark for us to try and improve upon. But that was the first issue that I had. It was really hard to stabilize that red dot, keep it steady. Now, the interesting thing that came up is when I shot it with the Glock 17, right, which had the iron sights, right, and I lined up my iron sights, I stabilized it on the bag. I could not see the iron. I mean, it looked like I was way more stable, okay, which I don't believe was the case. It's just that the red dot, okay, against that blue bullseye allowed me to see that I was a little bit unstable. However, when I went to the iron sights, because the iron sights, remember, when you're looking through these iron sights, that front sight post, okay, is wider than this bullseye, right? So it's wider like this. So when I'm looking at it and I'm focusing, because now with iron sights, you're focusing on your front sight. With the red dot, I'm kind of looking all the way out there, and the red dot's just on it, okay? Whereas with iron sights, you have to focus on your front sight, all right? And then, so the bullseye in the back is going to be a little bit blurry because your eyes can only focus on one thing at a time. So you're focusing on your front sight post, and it, you know, when you put your front sight post underneath this thing over here, right, and you match it up, you think that you're stable, okay? But you're not. It's just that you can't tell that there's a little bit of movement there, which is something that you will be able to see with the red dot, which is why I think the red dot is such a great training tool, because it allows you to see better when you're not as stable, when there's a little bit of movement. So I found that that interesting. And like I said, I felt that I was more stable with, obviously these two guns are pretty much the same thing. I was holding this gun the same way I would hold this gun, so there's no reason why I would be holding this gun more stable. It's just I couldn't tell that I was not holding the gun stable, whereas with the red dot, I was able to see my error. I could see that I was moving that red dot in here a little bit. So I found that really interesting. That's one of the things that came out of this test. Again, the purpose of the test is, you know, you're not just testing the guns, but you're also testing yourself, okay? So that's something that I learned out of this thing. Now, let's talk a little bit more. Let's talk a little bit more about some factors that might be contributing here. The trigger on this Mark III, on Mark IV rather, this is the Mark IV, definitely a little bit lighter, a little bit crisper. With the Glock triggers, right? Let me get the magazine out of it. With the Glock triggers, right? Okay, you got that little bit of a take up, okay, which normally it's very light. You don't feel it so much on the normal shooting. However, when you're trying to shoot at a distance, you're trying to line up your sights or get the red dot on the target, and you basically pick up that slack, right? You pick up that slack and you're trying to stabilize the gun. You're holding your breath, right? Well, while you're doing that, that little bit of whatever, that 2 pounds or 3 pounds of tension that you have on your finger while you pick up that slack and you're trying to make sure that you're getting the gun as stable as possible, it starts tiring you out a little bit. You actually start, you start feeling it. So after 5-shot groupings where you're really concentrating and and working hard to keep the gun as stable as possible, and you're picking up that slack on a trigger, your finger is definitely going to be a little bit more tired than if you're shooting a pistol like that Ruger Mark IV. That's a single action only, right? This is a Glock action. That's a single action pistol, a single action trigger on that gun. So I think that was also a significant factor. Okay, that trigger on that gun was just a little bit less tiring than this gun. Not that this gun was very tiring, but there's definitely a noticeable difference when you shoot that gun and then you shoot this gun, right, at that 50 yards. Now, the other important factor is the fact that that barrel is a fixed barrel and this is a tilt barrel. Okay, so with this barrel over here, right, every time you fire the gun, you can see how that barrel tilts up. So the barrel is moving. So here's the thing with this gun: the sights are not on the barrel. The sights are on the slide. Okay, the slide is separate from the barrel. Okay, and every time you fire the gun, that barrel moves. It drops. And here's an interesting thing, right? With this Glock's G17, if you hold it here, right, and you hold that little barrel over there, you can see that there's a tiny little bit of movement, right? When this gun is closed and you're pushing on the barrel a little bit, I mean, you can. There is a tiny little bit of movement. Here you go. I can even hear it. Yeah, I'll hold it close over here, right? You hear that clicking? Okay, that's me moving the barrel back and forth against the slide while this gun is closed. Okay, so the fact that the sights, all right, or even in the case of this gun, okay, the sights, whether it's the iron sights or your red dot, are on the slide and not the barrel, I think is a difference, is a significant difference as to why it's a struggle to hit an 8x11 paper at 50 yards with with a 9mm pistol that has the tilt barrel design. Whereas with this gun here, with this gun over here, right, the barrel is fixed. Okay, the bolt is basically moving. Here, take the mag out. The barrel is fixed. The bolt moves inside the barrel. Okay. Right, the sights, both the iron sights and the red dot, are fixed on top of the barrel the same way that it would be on the rifle, and I think that that's a significant difference. That's a reason why I believe that I was basically 98% of the time I was able to stay on that 11x8 paper, right, and get pretty much an average 5-inch grouping, right, at 50 yards. Whereas with these guns over here that had that tilt barrel design, it was really a struggle to just stay on the paper, and I was lucky if I can get 3 out of 5 on the paper. So I think this is some interesting information that I kind of suspected. Finally had a chance to kind of test it out, and to do this, basically I needed a Glock or a Glock-like pistol that had a red dot on it so I could more fairly compare, apples and apples. I do intend on doing more testing in the future on this. I just kind of, and this testing kind of built up on the testing I did a year ago when I was shooting that Mark III at 110 yards. Kind of gave me the information I needed to kind of, put this test together, and I sort of knew what I was looking for. So if you guys have any comments, questions, feedback, put in the comment section. If you're not a member of the channel, please subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.